septic.
The Iranians were
Everything is fine. It didn't blow up yet. Let's try it again. Oh, okay. We're going to call the meeting to order, please. Would you join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Public notice, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, Commissioners. Adequate public notice has been given pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice has been posted at the Board's office and website, emailed to the Department of State, and to newspapers of broad circulation within the state.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Holden?
Here.
Commissioner Solomon?
Here.
Commissioner Shivakula?
Here.
Commissioner Gordon?
Here.
President Fertiliso.
Here. And our next meeting?
The next regular board meeting will be on Wednesday, August 17 at 9 a.m. It will be a hybrid meeting in person at the board's hearing room at 44 South Clinton Avenue in Trenton and live stream via YouTube.
Thank you. And just to reiterate what Carmen indicated here, the public is invited to attend our meetings, as I said in on previous occasions, and also it's live streamed. But if you want to come and be part of the meeting in person, please feel free to do that. We would love to see you. There will be an executive session today. The board will be addressing the following item. In executive session, it's clean energy item A, the matter of customer relationship management system for benchmarking. The board will take action on this item during regular session. Executive session should last no more than 10 to 15 minutes. Will the Attorney General's office please read or explain the reason we're going into executive session?
Sure. Good morning, Mr. President, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Item number 8A on the agenda, which is the benchmarking matter that you just mentioned, will be an executive session. That is permitted due to an exception in the Open Public Meetings Act for contract negotiations. That exception is found at New Jersey Statute 10:4-12B7.
Good. Thank you, Michael. All right. May I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone who's not a ready? Ready. Okay. A couple of very important events are going to be occurring. The most important is that Sunday is National Ice Cream Day.
I didn't know.
As a matter of fact, back in the 1980s, then President Reagan declared the entire month of July as National Ice Cream Month. But it's been cut down to a day. So you're going to have to consume as much ice cream on Sunday as you can because you don't have the whole month. So, also, July is plastic-free month. So, it's, plastic is not biodegradable and creates a lot of difficulties, I guess, so it's important to recognize those pollutants. And I encourage each of us to take the time to find ways to participate in this global improvement. Most towns have recycling programs and take plastic and so on. It gets it out of our waste stream, thank you, that's the word, that was the phrase I was looking for. And so it really is important, and there are certain items that we use on a daily basis that don't belong in our waste stream, so and plastic is certainly one of them. It's also, God, we're getting an awful lot of knowledge today. July is also Smart Irrigation Month. I have no idea what the hell that is. It's the month that peak demand for outdoor water is used. I think July, and I may be wrong, is the driest month in our calendar year. And when people use water the most because of trying to keep their lawn semi-green and so on. So the most precious resource we have, water, is better used by humans than lawns. So let's be careful with our water use and how we use it. It's with a heavy heart, and I don't see her here. Oh, there she is.
Hiding back there.
Ariane is Friday your last day? Is her last day. She has found greener pastures and is moving on. She has assured me that she will not forget us little people as she goes, and she will be going to the federal government, by the way, and assuming a very important position. She has really been the sole force behind Community Solar, with a great team behind her. And she is certainly one of those few people that we're going to miss, not only for her, not only for do you want to leave now? No, you know I'm teasing, and it really is. There are a number of people in this agency that are outstanding, and we all know who they are, and Ariane is one of them, and one person that is going to be missed. And a lot of people come through my office, not a lot, some people come through my office and say, I'm leaving for this or I'm leaving for that, and some you say, God. Others you say, what are we going to do? And when Ariane told me that she was leaving, my first thought was, well, I'm happy for her. Two, what are we going to do? And but she's going to be an asset no matter where she goes. And can you tell us what department in the federal government you'll be working for?
called the Loan Programs Office.
Okay, what department's in that?
The one with the money.
Department of Energy.
Department of Energy. So, yeah, now, if you ever see any of our applications come through,
You have my phone number.
not that we're gonna lobby you or anything, but we're gonna miss you. And I just wanted to thank you on behalf, I hope, of all of us, and I'm sure it is, for the contributions you made to this agency and how well you served the people of New Jersey. And it's something that you're one of those people that we won't forget. So, thank you very much. You will notice over there a box that looks like it contains a cake. And the reason it looks like it contains a cake is because it contains a cake. And it's a celebration that we have exceeded 4 gigawatts of installed solar here in the state of New Jersey. And that's enough solar to power 500,000 homes. I've said this before, we have more solar, 157,000 solar installations here in the state of New Jersey. We have more solar per square mile than any state in the union. This is something to be proud of. And for those of us who have been around a while and have seen the development and the evolution of the solar industry, it's something to rejoice in. And one person I know who's been around here long enough to see it and has worked directly is Scott Hunter. And Scott has taught me more about solar from the first day I walked in here than anyone else. And it's a shame he's not here to hear these words, but or to even have cake for that matter, right? I'll eat his piece of it. But it's an industry that has matured. It's an industry that employs almost 7,000 New Jerseyans. And it's an industry that continues to grow. And the state of New Jersey, the Board of Public Utilities in particular, have assisted in that growth. We've brought it along. And we instituted programs along the years, or through the years, that promote the solar industry. So, when we think of the solar industry, we think of the Clean Energy Division, which is really the entity that propels, or helps to propel the solar industry. But every division in this agency has contributed in some way to the success of this program. Every division has had a part in ensuring that we have one of the most vibrant solar industries in the entire United States. So I want to congratulate all the divisions because all deserve that congratulations. So in honor of surpassing 4 gigawatts of solar energy, we're going to have a little cake after the meeting. So stick around and enjoy the cake. Make sure you cut it in small pieces so I get a piece. And it really is a wonderful occasion because I've been around long enough to know or to remember how I questioned. What do you mean? We're going to give them what to do what? And here is one of the cornerstones of our clean energy initiative. So we're very, very fortunate, and we've been very fortunate in having people who have worked so hard. So congratulations, BPU. I think that's all the opening remarks I have. Unless I have more that I don't know about. Do any other commissioners have any other comments they'd like to make?
Thank you, Mr. President. I know Ramon Johnson, who has been my confidential aide for nearly 8 years, and today is his last week. He's on vacation. I just want to publicly thank him for his service to me as well as the agency. I just wanted to mention that. Also, I just want to thank Ariane for being there for the solar. She's done extremely well, and very proud of her, and wish her a great success in her future endeavors. And I heard today that China has a robot that eats plastic. It may have to go hungry because there's no plastic. Right? And in case other fish wants to eat that robot fish, it is digestible because it's made out of polyurethane.
Sounds appetizing. Anyone else?
We're worried about PFAS and PFOA.
Really?
Ariane will always be known to me as Susie. And I know Susie. Thank you so much for breaking down all the statistics and making them digestible, staying in the food theme, for us commissioners to understand what these programs really are capable of doing. Thank you.
Yes.
I also want to send my best wishes to Ariane. Not only did she, put forth the community solar program, she also set forth a guidebook, I think, for a lot of the divisions on how to move forward with an initiative with the commissioners. Coming in, briefing us on a regular basis, getting us to the point of acceptance. And, that type of interaction wasn't always, throughout all the divisions and throughout every matter that would come before the board. So, I thank her for not only her work in community solar, but what she also offered to the organization of the BPU, and which I'm sure will be utilized at the Department of Energy. So thank you, Ariane. You'll be missed.
Mr. President? I want to echo the comments of my colleagues regarding Ariane's service here. And from my perspective, I think you've demonstrated that one person truly can have an impact on public policy that affects an entire state. And your departure will be a real loss for us, and I wish you the best in your new endeavors in Washington.
Consent agenda.
On consent agenda items 1A, 2A, 3A, 3B, 3C, 5A, and 6A.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon?
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula?
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon?
Yes.
President Fiordaliso?
Yes, thank you. There are no items under audit for consideration. That brings us to energy and item 2A. David? David, that's not David. Are you David?
I'm not David.
Okay. Now, it's my understanding you're going to present 2A through 2C?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. President and fellow commissioners. This is item 2A regarding the Department of Energy's Civil Nuclear Credit Program. On February 15, 2022, the Department of Energy published in the Federal Register a notice for intent and request for information regarding the establishment of a civil nuclear credit program. This program is known as the CNC. The CNC program will allocate $6 billion per year, $6 billion at $1.2 billion per year over the course of 5 years to nuclear reactors that are at risk of shutting down due to economic conditions. On March 8th, 2022, board staff submitted comments responding to the notice. On April 19th, 2022, the Department of Energy opened the CNC program for applications. The program, among other criteria, required that eligible applicants derive at least 50% of their operating revenue from the competitive market. On June 17th, the Department of Energy invited public comment on a proposed amendment to the guidance for the CNC program. This change would change the 50% limit to an undefined material amount. On June 27th, 2022, staff on behalf of the board filed comments in opposition of the guidance amendments. Staff recommends that the board ratify the comments submitted on June 27th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments for Brian? Yes.
Comment? The whole purpose of this civil nuclear credit was to keep or help keep plants that had financial uncertainty running. Good luck, Governor Newsom. In California, he's got a lot of political pressure to close this plant, and it's not that it's financially unstable. So I think we've got a good argument, but as I've always been skeptical, I think the $6 billion is just about the figure they need to keep Diablo King, open. So I'm not happy.
Any other comments, questions? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes. Another FERC item, and you and I, Brian, and we're not at liberty to discuss this, know where David is today.
We do. Item 2B is also regarding the Department of Energy and another program, the Transmission Facilitation Program. On May 12, 2022, the Department of Energy published in the Federal Register Notice of Intent and Request for Information regarding the establishment of a Transmission Facilitation Program. The Department of Energy is establishing the program to facilitate transmission build-out of projects in the nation's best interest that would not be built at as big of a capacity or at all without federal funding. On June 13, 2022, board staff, on behalf of the board, submitted comments to the Department of Energy to offer New Jersey's perspective on the Transmission Facilitation Program and the critical need for federal funding to support shovel-ready transmission projects, including New Jersey's offshore wind grid currently being developed in the region. Staff recommends that the board ratify the comments submitted by staff in response to the Notice of Intent and Request for Information.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments for Ryan? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes. And then another FERC item for 2C. Brian.
Yes. Item 2C is regarding the FERC Joint Federal State Task Force on Electric Transmission. On June 17th, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission issued an order establishing the Joint Federal State Task Force on Electric Transmission and empowering it to conduct hearings on multiple transmission-related topics. On November 10th, 2021, the task force held its first public meeting where it discussed incorporating state policies into regional transmission planning. On February 16th, 2022, the task force held its second public meeting, which focused on cost allocation. On May 6, 2022, the task force held its third public meeting where it considered potential reforms to the generation interconnection process. Following the third meeting, FERC issued a notice inviting comments on topics discussed at its third meeting. Specifically, the notice invited comments on what potential changes to the generation interconnection process that could help alleviate the current interconnection backlogs across the country and whether and how such changes to cost allocation methodologies for interconnection-related transmission upgrades could be made. On June 1st, 2022, board staff, on behalf of the board, submitted comments in response. These comments advocated for the interconnection process reforms that would expedite the interconnection process, more fairly allocate the cost of the transmission system upgrades needed to interconnect new generation resources, and enable New Jersey to meet its clean energy goals more quickly and at lower total cost to its ratepayers. Accordingly, staff recommends that the board ratify the comments filed by staff with FERC on June 1st, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments from Ryan? Interconnection is one of the most important aspects of our clean energy program. And many of our utilities, electric utilities, are not ready or are far behind on interconnection availability. And it is something that I constantly talk to our electric utilities about, because my greatest fear is we're going to have all of this energy from renewable sources and no place to, quote, plug it in, if you will. So this is vital. And part of the problem is PJM is far behind in its evaluation of interconnection. And the queue is very long. OPSI, the organization of PJM states, has written to PJM encouraging them to shorten that queue period, which is currently at 7 years. Well, 7 years from now could be catastrophic if the reports we get on climate change are real. And I believe they are. But of course, like any organization, common sense, in order to get a consensus, don't forget there are 13 states and District of Columbia in OPSI, to get consensus, comments are watered down. We reluctantly, and this is what I said in my vote, approve the letter, reluctantly, because we didn't feel it was strong enough. We contributed some language, but again, the language we submit has to be acceptable by the majority of the states that are in PJM. And then one of the states wanted the word renewable taken out. That's what we're talking about. So Ryan may yell at me, but I voted no on that, because I wanted the word renewable to stay in. I won't ask you if I did right. We can talk about that privately. Let's call it what it is. You know, we kind of beat around the bush and don't get to the main point. The grid has to be ready to accept renewable generation. And our utilities have to be prepared, all of those electric utilities, prepared to accept renewable generation. Otherwise, we're spinning our wheels. That's all I have to say. I mean, it really irritates me when letters like this are so watered down. And this was more aggressive than most, but still watered down to where sometimes it's not worth the paper it's printed on. So that's my thoughts on it. Any other comments or thoughts?
That's one of my pet peeves with some of these organizations, and NARUC is no different. They get so watered down to get everybody to vote yes, instead of saying, hey, if you don't like it, vote no. And instead, some people will say, oh, I'll abstain, but they have no basis for an abstention. That's one of my pet peeves. Thank you.
We don't, we don't expect everybody to think the way we think. You know, everybody has different tastes. That's why they make vanilla ice cream and chocolate ice cream. Keeping the ice cream theme. Some like vanilla, some like chocolate. So we can disagree. But to get everybody to say yes is unrealistic. I think. Yes.
Yeah, it's always been the, hope at Oxy when you have these letters go out, to, have full agreement, so you have the full force of the agency. I mean, it's not, unlikely that you sometimes have, certain states in order to press their, issues or make their own points, to send separate letters as well. And I think that's, important, especially on an issue such as this. I didn't see the original letter, so I don't know, the changes that were made. But, in addition to renewable, in terms of the interconnection, as we're moving down this road, we still have to, my issue has always been, reliability and with respect to the queue, to be able to not only interconnect to the renewable, but other sources that we may need in order to get us there. Need to have sufficient space also to come online. So we, we're not limited. I don't think we're suggesting that we limit it only to renewables, but to, provide the opportunities to have a reliable grid as we move forward, and to have a process that allows us to get there. So.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Holden,
Yes?
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fertiliso.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
What happened?
I want to make sure we're paying attention.
Yeah.
Did you call me Holden? Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Law. Item D, Paul, South Jersey Gas.
Sure. On June 1st, 2021, South Jersey Gas Company filed its annual BGSS petition, seeking approval to modify its periodic BGSS, balance in service clause, and SIP rates. Combining the BGSS and balancing service clause recovery with the SIP recovery results in an increase of $47.3 million, including taxes. Additional details since the filing have become available related to the pending Columbia base rate case, which would result in a proposed recovery increase of $22.3 million, including taxes. In November 2021, the board issued an order which authorized the company to modify its periodic BGSS, balance in service clause, and SIP rates on a provisional basis, effective December 1st. On November 18th, 2021, South Jersey Gas filed a notice with the board of its intent to self-implement a periodic BGSS rate adjustment based upon a 5% increase of the monthly bill of a typical residential customer using 100 therms to become effective December 1st. The parties have now executed a stipulation requesting that the board approve the provisionally approved BGSS balancing service clause and SIP rates on a final basis, which was subsequently approved by Administrative Law Judge Irene Jones. As a result of the stipulation, there is no additional bill impact on ratepayers. Staff recommends that the board issue an order adopting the initial decision and stipulation and directing South Jersey Gas to file revised tariffs by July 29th.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fertiliso.
Yes. Item E, Paul, PSE&G, and Bristol Myers Squibb.
In September of 2020, pursuant to Public Service Electric and Gas Company's rate schedule contract service agreement, Bristol Myers Squibb sought a discounted rate from PSE&G for transportation service for a period of 20 years on the basis of other considerations as set forth in PSE&G's gas service tariff. On February 16, 2021, PSE&G filed a petition seeking approval of a rate schedule CSG transportation service agreement between PSE&G and Bristol Myers Squibb. On March 3, 2022, PSE&G filed an amended petition seeking approval of a CSG amended service agreement following a bypass analysis conducted with Bristol Myers Squibb. The amended petition also sought a protective order and exemption from public disclosure of confidential information, specifically the volumes of usage contained in the amended agreement. By letter dated June 15, 2022, Rate Counsel indicated that it has no objection to the approval of the service agreement as reflected in the amended petition. Staff recommends the board issue an order approving the amended service agreement between PSE&G and Bristol Myers Squibb. Staff further recommends that the issue of confidential treatment of certain information that is claimed to be commercially sensitive or proprietary be decided by the board's records custodian pursuant to the board's rules. Until a decision is rendered, such information should continue to be treated as confidential.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendations, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon?
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula?
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon?
Yes.
President Fiordaliso?
Yes. Item F.
Sure.
Atlantic City Electric.
On October 1st, 2021, Atlantic City Electric Company filed a letter petition pursuant to NJAC 14:1-5.11 and 14:3-1.3, seeking approval of its proposed rider remote net metering tariff. Subsequent to the letter petition being filed, the parties met on several occasions to discuss the company's proposed R&M tariff. On March 7th, 2022, ACE submitted a revised R&M tariff. On June 15th, 2022, staff provided ACE with non-substantive language changes to the revised R&M tariff, which ACE agreed to incorporate. On June 24th, 2022, Rate Counsel submitted comments to the board noting the addition to ACE's revised R&M tariff as previously provided by staff to the company on June 15th more accurately reflects the consensus reached by the parties. Staff recommends that the board issue an order approving the proposed changes to ACE's R&M tariff, subject to incorporation of the revision enumerated in Rate Counsel's June 24th correspondence. Staff further recommends that the board direct ACE to file revised tariffs consistent with the order by July 30th, 2022, to become effective on August 1st, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendations, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon?
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula?
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon?
Yes.
President Fiordaliso?
Yes. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
There are no items on cable television for consideration. Telecommunications, Luanda. Billing dispute, Luanda?
Just a tiny one.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. President and Commissioners. This agenda item involves the board's review of an initial decision in resolving a multifaceted billing dispute between Business Automation Technologies, doing business as Data Network Solutions, or DNS, and Verizon, New Jersey. By way of background, DNS is a competitive local exchange carrier, or CLEC, authorized by the board in 2003 to provide telecommunications services within the state. DNS entered into an interconnection agreement, or ICA, with Verizon New Jersey, an incumbent local exchange carrier, or ILEC, which was approved by the board in 2004. The ICA provides the terms under which DNS interconnects with Verizon's network in order to provide service to DNS's customers. Such agreements are governed by the Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996, which requires board approval and vests the board with the authority to determine disputes. In September of 2017, DNS filed a petition with the board contesting various billing charges and alleging certain billing practices by Verizon were in violation of the terms of the ICA. Following unsuccessful informal settlement discussions, the matter was transmitted to the Office of Administrative Law, or OAL, for hearings as a contested case in January 2018 and assigned to ALJ Tricia Calaguire. Following extensive discovery and motion practice and unsuccessful settlement discussions, hearings were held for several days spanning from September 2020 to April 2021, where testimony was heard from witnesses for both parties. Following the end of the hearings, post-hearing briefs and submissions were filed by both parties from August through December of 2021. On January 28, 2022, ALJ Calaguire issued her initial decision in this matter. Both parties filed exceptions and reply exceptions with the board, and the board also approved several extension requests necessitated by the multifaceted issues in the petition and the voluminous record. The petitioner raised several billing issues, including disputing a $39,000 386 past due balance claimed by Verizon and missing credits due to DNS, improper late payment charges, improper federal and state taxes and regulatory surcharges, and improper charges for services related to different types of trunks. DNS also claimed Verizon's actions, such as refusing to honor reduced price offers and/or blocked orders at the prices listed in the ICA, failure to properly follow the dispute resolution process, and improper institution of an embargo preventing orders by DNS violated various provisions of the ICA, including provisions requiring good faith between the parties, as well as the covenant of good faith and fair dealing imposed upon parties to a contract under state and federal law. Based on the record, the testimony and evidence presented, including the credibility of the witnesses, ALJ Calaguire made several findings in her initial decision, resulting in the following conclusions. 1. DNS failed to prove its allegations against Verizon regarding incorrect billing and credits, and is liable for the $39,386 in charges. 2. Verizon violated the good faith provisions of the ICA and the covenant of good faith and fair dealing under New Jersey common law with respect to the imposition of late payment charges and its failure to exercise due diligence to support changes to certain trunk billing charges. With respect to all other claims raised by DNS, ALJ Calaguire found that they had failed to meet their burden of proof and they should be dismissed. Staff has reviewed the voluminous record of the proceeding and believes that ALJ Calaguire's decision is consistent with the evidence provided and recommends the board adopt the initial decision in its entirety. DNS is therefore liable to Verizon for the $39,386 in past due charges. DNS may pursue damages against Verizon regarding the findings of violations with respect to the good faith provisions of the ICA in the appropriate legal forum. Staff therefore recommends adoption of the initial decision.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? It was only a little amount of money, right? Telephone bill, $39,000.
DNS?
Do we have ghosts? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon.
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula.
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon.
Yes.
President Ferlisa.
Yes, thank you, LaWanda.
Thank you.
That brings us to water. Michael.
Good morning, Mr. President and Commissioners.
Good morning, Mike.
On January 14th, 2022, Montague Water Company and Montague Sewer Company filed a joint petition seeking rate increases in the base rates and tariff charges for water and wastewater service. The requested water rates were designed to increase revenues from meter water service by approximately $400,000 or approximately 97%. With respect to wastewater, the requested increase for wastewater service was approximately $212,000 or approximately 89% above pro forma present revenues. The matter was transmitted to the Office of Administrative Law for hearings as a contested case and was ultimately assigned to Administrative Law Judge Irene Jones. Montague Water serves approximately 700 water customers, and Montague Sewer Company serves approximately 268 wastewater customers, all within Montague Township in Sussex County. Montague Water, Montague Sewer, the New Jersey Division of Rate Counsel, and board staff executed a stipulation of settlement agreeing to an overall increase in water revenues for approximately $399,000 and an overall increase in wastewater revenues of approximately $204,000, which will be implemented in 3 phases. The stipulation agrees that 40% of the agreed upon rate increase will be implemented upon approval by the board. 40% of the agreed upon increases will be implemented on the first anniversary of the initial rate increase, and 20% of the agreed upon rate increases will be implemented on the second anniversary of the initial increase. ALJ Jones issued an initial decision recommending that the board adopt the stipulation, and staff recommends that the board adopt the initial decision.
So moved.
Second?
Michael, when was the last time they came in for a rate increase?
Approximately 10 years ago.
And they serve 700 customers.
They serve 700 customers.
Does anybody want to buy them?
The company that owns them now was a purchaser. This was a troubled water and sewer utility that was subject to numerous actions by the DEP, and the entity that ultimately acquires them specializes in acquiring troubled utilities, and they bought it, and the DEP violations have been eliminated, and we get very few customer complaints. We did have a virtual public hearing, and only 2 people showed up at the virtual public hearing because of the pandemic. I went to the last in-person public hearing 10 years ago, and it was standing room only in a driving rainstorm. So you would have thought that because the hearing was virtual, we would have had a similar large attendance, but we only had 2 people show up, and we've gotten no written correspondence or telephone calls objecting to the proposed rate increases.
Wow, that's interesting. You know, it's such a, and I understand a company that size, when you're going for a rate increase, it costs money.
Yes.
And a company that size just can't come in frequently.
Yes.
However, it could be, as we talked about when you briefed me, it could be a ticket shock.
Yes.
I mean, to have a 90-some-odd% increase in your water bill, or 89% in your storage bill, and so on and so forth. I mean, it just doesn't seem fair. I mean, even if they came in after 5 years, or you know what I mean. So.
Yeah, it would be helpful if these small companies came in more frequently, just to minimize the rate shock to their to the ratepayers.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
Well, this also wasn't what they're going to absorb a rate of an ROE of, I think, was 7% on the water
Yes.
and 4% on the sewer.
Yeah,
It's just trying to catch up after 10 years.
yes.
Also, you look at a 97% increase. I don't know how much they're paying per gallon, but it could go from 1 cent to 2 cents. So when you say 97%, it could be a very small dollar-wise, but
It's still
Still
a
a
big,
shock.
it's still a big impact, yes.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes. And the next one, the New Jersey American one?
Franklin Place condominiums versus New Jersey American. Franklin Place is a 12-unit condominium development in Summit, New Jersey. On November 19th, 2020, the Village Court condominium and the petitioner, which is the developer of the condominiums, filed a complaint alleging improper charges by New Jersey American. The petitioners further allege that they never should have been required to install and/or be billed for an 8-inch meter to this 12-unit condominium development. The matter was transmitted to the Office of Administrative Law for hearings and was assigned to Administrative Law Judge Gail Cookson. New Jersey American filed a motion for summary decision on December 17th, 2021, and ALJ Cookson held oral argument on the motion in March of 2022, at which time she also directed that the petitioner and New Jersey American file briefs. Those briefs were filed on May 4th, 2022, and the record closed on that date. The petitioner opposes the motion for summary decision and argues that a plenary hearing was necessary because there are genuine issues of material fact and dispute. The ALJ issued her initial decision, granting New Jersey American's motion for summary decision on May 4th, 2022, and on June 8th, 2022, the board approved a 45-day extension until July 27, 2022, in order to give staff time to review the extensive record in this proceeding. Staff recommends that the board adopt ALJ Cookson's initial decision and dismiss petitioner's petition with prejudice.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments from Mike? Yes.
Question from Mike. I mean, here we have a 12-unit condominium, and this meter, the meter charges are something like $1,000 a month,
Yes.
which seems pretty onerous to me. I mean, did someone not do their job, representing the condominium association? I mean, it just seems like a bad result.
This is an issue with the developer, and we've seen this before. When condominiums are built, at the time that they're built, they should install individual water lines to each unit, which is expensive. But the cost of installing 12 water lines would have been included in the price of the condominiums. So the people who bought the condominiums originally would have made a decision to buy the condominium based on the price that it was offered. There's usually very limited negotiations and sale prices for new condominiums. And if the developer would have installed 12 water lines, the customers would have been paying New Jersey American's 5/8-inch meter charge, which is significantly less than the $1,000 a month. So it's something that we've seen before, unfortunately, and the developers try to save money by installing one water line as opposed to 12 water lines.
I'm just wondering whether maybe there needs to be a change in the building codes that would require these individual water lines, so we don't see a situation like this.
Certainly something that we could discuss with DCA, Department of Community Affairs, to see if there's any changes needed to the Uniform Construction Code. I'd be happy to do that.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that monthly fee is one of the largest items in the condominium association budget, annual budget.
It probably is, especially given that there's only 12 units.
Yeah. It's just... Okay.
Any other questions or comments from Mike? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fiordaliso.
Yes. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Liability and security, Jody. That's not Jody. Did you change your name? How are you, Pam?
Good. Good morning, President and Commissioners. For your consideration are items 6A and 6B, which are separate items related to the same incident. And with your permission, I'd like to discuss the two documents in a single presentation.
Okay. Will there be 2 votes?
There will be need for 2 votes, yes. On October 30th, 2019, at 107 King George Road in Pennington, New Jersey, a natural gas incident occurred that is within the jurisdiction of the New Jersey Underground Facilities Protection Act, which the BPU administers. The excavator, William Perrine Landscape Services, struck a gas line belonging to Elizabethtown Gas Company during excavation with a Kubota mini excavator. The damage to the gas line resulted in an explosion and fire that destroyed the single-family residence. As previously noted, the board, through the Bureau of One Call, supervises and enforces the One Call damage prevention system. Pursuant to NJSA 482-86C, violations involving a natural gas or hazardous liquid underground pipeline or distribution facility are subject to civil penalties. In determining the amount of the penalty or the amount agreed upon in compromise, several factors are considered, including the nature, circumstances, and gravity of the violation, the degree of the violator's culpability, any history of prior violations, the prospective effect of the penalty on the ability of the violator to conduct business, any good faith effort on part of the violator in attempting to achieve compliance, the violator's ability to pay the penalty, and other factors the board determines to be appropriate. Board staff conducted a detailed and comprehensive investigation of the incident and reviewed and evaluated the compliance of both the excavator and the operator with the Underground Facility Protection Act. The review included procedures, documents, actions, and other circumstances surrounding the incident. Board staff and Elizabethtown Gas engaged in settlement negotiations and have executed a stipulation of settlement wherein Elizabethtown Gas agreed to pay a monetary penalty of $250,000 and agreed to study the use of LiDAR and similar technology in the investigation of incidents involving underground facilities. The findings of the study will be shared with the board. William Perrine Landscape Services separately engaged in settlement negotiations with staff and have executed a stipulation of settlement wherein they agreed to pay a monetary penalty of $50,000. For vote on 6A, staff recommends that the board issue an order approving the stipulation related to Elizabethtown Gas.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments for Pam on that item? Yes.
I just want to say I appreciate the detailed briefing that we had. What was agreed upon was going forward that we have a little more transparency in how these fines are calculated. Also, I just want to remind people that the $250,000 monetary penalty goes to the general treasury. It doesn't go to the homeowner that lost their home and almost lost their life.
Yes.
Yeah, I also, appreciate the detail with the briefing, and also the fact that we saw, at least on the consent agenda this month, some one-call violations and how important it is that we stay on top of our one-call responsibilities. Quite a while there, that was missing from our agenda packets, and I know both Commissioner Holden and I were concerned about the imposition of these penalties, and I was glad to see that they're now moving forward, and this is just an indication of why it's so important that we make it clear to the contractor community that, and making sure that the markouts are properly done, because incidents like this can happen, just from doing gardening in your backyard. So the public needs to be aware of that, and this is the only way we have available to us to make sure that that information is communicated to the general public.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call on this.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation?
Yes.
Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon?
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula?
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon?
Yes.
President Fidelis?
Yes.
And for vote on 6B, staff recommends that the board issue an order approving the stipulation related to William Perrine Landscape Services.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon?
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula?
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon?
Yes.
President Fidelis?
Yes. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Customer assistance and some rules. Jackie?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning. Staff is proposing final readoption with substantial changes to the board's existing rules contained within the New Jersey Administrative Code, NJAC 14:3, et sec, all utilities. In addition, in response to comments, staff is proposing one change to the rule as originally proposed that is substantial and therefore cannot be made upon adoption. For this change, staff is requesting approval of a notice of proposed substantial change upon adoption to proposed amendment. The notice will be published in the New Jersey Register. Stakeholders will be given the opportunity to comment on this substantial change, and the change will be brought back to the board for approval. These rules provide basic requirements for all utilities regulated by the board, including water, wastewater, electric, gas, and telephone utilities, in such areas as the construction of utility facilities, the discontinuance and restoration of service, utility billing, and meter testing. The rule proposed at NJAC 14:3 was published in the New Jersey Register on February 22nd, 2022, and will expire on August 10, 2022. NJAC 14:3 is necessary and appropriate in that the rules will help ensure that New Jersey utility customers receive safe, adequate, and proper service at reasonable rates. The board received comments from the stakeholder community through April 23, 2022, and responded to each of the comments. The notice of adoption document contains a summary of all comments and staff's responses. The governor's office has reviewed and approved the proposed readoption. In summary, staff is recommending 2 items for the board to vote on, so there will be 2 votes. For the first vote, staff recommends that the board approve the final readoption of this chapter with substantial and technical changes, with the rules becoming effective upon publication in the New Jersey Register. As part of this item, staff recommends that 3 non-substantial changes to the original proposal be made upon adoption, which correct legal references. For the second vote, staff recommends that in response to comments, the board approve the notice of proposed substantial change upon adoption to proposed amendment NJAC 14:3, 3A.1D. And if I could, I'd like to thank the Chapter 3 team, if that's okay. I'd like to thank Jacqueline Hardy, who was the person who led the project with me. I'd like to thank Matko Illick, who was our DAG, who provided extensive legal guidance. I'd like to thank Julie and the customer assistance team, Charles Gurkis, and the teams from Energy, Water, Reliability, Security, and Telecommunications. This was a large undertaking which began well over a year ago, and I got to work with really great people who have extensive knowledge in their areas. It was good to you.
Well, thank you for recognizing them all, and I think it's just another demonstration of what we talked about before as far as our solar celebration today. The team working together, everybody in the agency contributing in some way, and working as a team. So, job well done. Thank you. Let's. Do I have a motion on the first vote that we're going to take?
Could you repeat what we are voting on?
Sure, absolutely. For the first vote, for the first vote, that's the final readoption of the chapter with substantial and technical changes.
with rules becoming effective when they're published in the register. That's the rule that we
I
proposed with
understand,
all
I just
changes.
didn't, I couldn't repeat it.
That's fine.
So-
The second one is the substantial
wait,
change. Oh, I'm gonna start going fast.
Let me just take the first one.
Sure.
As she stated.
Yeah, we have good memories, they're just a little short.
No worries.
Is that a comment on my height? I am vertically challenged. I'll move it.
Second.
Any questions or comments for Jackie?
So the temperature, decreasing the temperature from 95 to 90, that's also a good move, I think. Yeah. These days 90 degrees is getting very common, and thank you for that. Yeah. Also water, I think this continuation of water is also essential. Water is essential, and discontinuing water is also the rule affecting that is also good. Thank you.
Any other comments? Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation to approve the final readoption of Chapter 3, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fideliso.
Yes. And if you would repeat the second one
Sure.
for us?
For the second vote, staff recommends that in response to comments, the board approve a notice of proposed substantial change upon adoption to proposed amendment NJAC 14:3-3A.1 little d.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments for Jackie?
Yeah, just one.
Yes.
Yeah, just want to also say, this is a major undertaking, because you're talking about a rule that relates to, all of our utility services. So, thanks again to your group, because, and, all the different divisions. Here we're dealing with, customer service, not just the service itself, and, how they're interrelated. It takes a lot of work and coordination, and so really do appreciate the effort to update these rules.
Yeah, it really is. Rulemaking is not an easy process. It's a long process and takes a lot of hard work. If there are no other comments, roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation to approve the notice of proposed substantial change upon adoption, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon.
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula.
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fideliso.
Yes, thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
Well done. That brings us to clean energy. Phil, I think you're up. And this matter was discussed in executive session, and as indicated before we went into executive session, it was, we were going to take action on it. So, the floor is yours, Phil.
Good morning, Mr. President and Commissioners. This item was discussed in executive session. On May 23rd, 2018, Governor Phil Murphy signed the Clean Energy Act into law as L 2018-C17. The CEA mandates the following. No later than 5 years after the date of enactment of the Clean Energy Act, the board shall require the owner or operator of each commercial building over 25,000 square feet in the state to benchmark energy and water use for the prior calendar year using the United States Environmental Protection Agency's Portfolio Manager tool. Goal 3.3.2 of the New Jersey Energy Master Plan describes benchmarking as a critical component in promoting market-driven increases in energy efficiency. Benchmarking allows commercial building owners and operators to measure and analyze their respective facilities' energy and water use and compare their performance to similar or model buildings. Benchmarking provides owners and operators with the necessary information to assess opportunities for performance improvements that reduce energy use and costs. Staff presented a straw proposal for the New Jersey's Building Energy and Water Benchmarking Program in January and has reviewed stakeholder comments on the proposal while preparing recommendations for the board on how to design and implement the benchmarking program. Staff will be requesting board approval to implement the benchmarking program at a future agenda meeting. The Clean Energy Act requires the board to establish a benchmarking program by May 2023. Staff has identified the need for a customer relationship management system, CRM, to manage and analyze the data associated with the benchmarking program, track benchmarking submissions to the United States EPA's Portfolio Manager tool, and manage communications with building owners and their representatives. In addition, staff believes that a help desk will be needed to field questions and process requests for exemptions from building owners. The help desk staff will be trained to use the CRM system to track communications and handle requests for exemptions. Staff anticipates there will be on the order of 20,000 covered buildings, which in turn means BPU will be communicating with thousands of building owners. Staff believes that a CRM system and a help desk are necessary for the success of the program. Given the time needed to announce the procurement, carefully evaluate bids, and select a vendor, staff has developed an RFP. The scope of work will allow for changes as determined by the board. Also, if the board does not approve the benchmarking program, a vendor will not be selected. Staff requests board approval to work with the New Jersey Department of the Treasury to release the RFP for public bidding in order to meet statutory deadlines.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments for Phil?
Comment? Yeah, as you said, and as the act requires, to institute this a benchmarking program, which you mentioned allows for, but does not compel, certain action on behalf of business owners, and I think that's going to be important moving forward when we look at the program that's being developed. You're talking about, you said over 20,000 buildings, and a lot of folks that probably have no idea. I know even some legislators who I've spoken to and who are unaware that this is coming down the pike, and we have to make sure that this is not burdensome to building owners. Last thing we want to do in these economic times is to make it more difficult for people to purchase and operate buildings in the state of New Jersey as a result of increased regulations and requirements on them. Even though, the information certainly will hopefully be beneficial to them, but, you can't, I know there are states that do, not only require the information, but then compel certain action, and we need to be, as we move forward with this program, sure that is not the case here in New Jersey, that it's not punitive, so that the help desk, I imagine, will be getting, numerous inquiries as this program moves forward, and we have to make sure to make it as easy as possible and as inexpensive as possible for building owners to comply. The other information that I wanted to convey, you did mention the cost for operating the program, and there are also, I understand, costs to the utilities that they will, put into rates with respect to this as well. So it's just one additional thing that we don't normally think about when we're looking at overall rates and impacts, that when we have a program even for something like this, that there are costs to each of the utilities will have to stand up this program. Though I understand that, well, I guess we can discuss that next month, is that ACE already instituted something similar to this, independent of our directing that it be done, to help their large energy users, I believe.
Correct.
So I, know that there are substantial costs, just based upon the initiation of their program to doing something like this. So, I just wanted to point that out ahead of our going ahead with getting the contractor and, looking towards the program development for next month to, highlight some of those issues.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Phil? I just wanted to commend you and your team, Phil, for, this has been a process, the whole benchmarking initiative, and one that has taken a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of revisions, and a lot of back and forth. Is this the best way to go? Is that the best way to go? And so on. So, a job well done, and I look forward to our discussion in August. So thank you. Roll call.
On the motion to approve staff's recommendation, Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Chivukula,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
President Fidelis.
Yes. Thanks, Phil. That box is still there, over there. So, at the conclusion of the meeting, that's the box we're looking for. There you go. And we wanted to give it prime time on live streaming. So, if there are no other items or no other comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we're adjourned.